The age of sequels is the period we live in, where most film releases nowadays are either prequels, sequels, midquels, spin-offs, remakes, reboots or similar. This has opened the gateway for sequels some thought would never see the light of day, due to the fact it had been too long since the original film. But not anymore. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about the top 5 sequels that I would like to see. I'd like to start by welcoming you to the party, pal. Die Hard 6 has been confirmed, but little is known about the plot and there is no release date as of yet. What we do know is that Ben Treblecook has written a screenplay for consideration, in which McClane is headed to Japan to receive some kind of special commendation for his efforts in the Nakatomi Tower in the first movie. I will link to the article below because I've read through the article and I believe pretty much everything that Treblecook is saying. I definitely think that Holly needs to return to the franchise for the last film so that there's a feeling of closure with John McClane's emotional journey and his love life. It would also be good if there was a Gruber in the film, because Grubers are awesome, as proved by Alan Rickman and Jeremy Irons. Throughout the films we've seen already, the stakes have become higher and higher and higher, and because of it, John McClane has turned from a relatable, vulnerable guy to an indestructible killing machine, and he's become less and less personal. So I think the 6th film needs the threat to be much smaller and more intimate. Basically be as close to the first film as possible. To end things, like I've already said, we really need some sort of definite closure, something that makes it the definitive chapter of John McClane. Hopefully it'll end on a high note and erase the memory of a good day to die hard. Finally, I just want to say yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker! No censorship. The 4th and 5th film both copped out on that line, and that line defines the series. So, no censorship, okay? The Incredibles 2. Honestly, who doesn't want it to happen? The Incredibles is one of the greatest films that Pixar ever made. It introduces an entire universe of superheroes that feels very grounded and unique. And the characters were awesome, even though they were quite noticeably ripped off from the Fantastic Four. At the end of the first movie, it ended on a cliffhanger, with the Incredibles just about to face the Underminer, who's voiced by John Ratzenberger, whose surname is as brilliant as he is. But there was a game released that already covers what happens with that. So I don't want to see a film about that. I want a film now, 10 years after the original Incredibles, to see how these characters have moved on with a new story. So definitely a sequel, not a prequel, Pixar. Don't pull another Monsters University on us. Sticking to the theme of superheroes, a film I really want to see get made is X-Men Origins Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is a brilliant character. He's my favourite member of the X-Men by far. Sorry, Wolverine. And he needs to be returned to the franchise. If Alan Cumming was on board to play him again after the outstanding performance he gave in X2, then that would be awesome. But if you were to be recast, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Nightcrawler's origin story, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting from the X-Men. He's the son of Mystique and Azazel, but Mystique abandons him, and he is adopted by a family of German circus performers. Joining the circus, he becomes known as the Incredible Nightcrawler, but his powers first manifest when he sees his adoptive sister falling from a tightrope, and he teleports to save her life. The audience in the circus assume it's just another part of the show, but obviously Nightcrawler and his sister and any members of his family who are watching are pretty shocked by this, because none of them expected it to happen. Things start to go wrong when the townsfolk realise that Nightcrawler's natural appearance is not actually circus prosthetics, and because most of humanity are mutant haters, they chase him out of the town, and eventually Charles Xavier comes to his rescue. An interesting story to tell to bring this character back into the franchise for his origin story, I think, would be the story of him and his adoptive brother. In the X-Men issue named Nightcrawler's Inferno, Nightcrawler explains that his brother was worried he was descending into darkness, and they made a pact that if he should ever go too far, Nightcrawler would kill him to stop him. And his brother goes too far, and Nightcrawler has to kill him to stop him. It's definitely more of an emotional storyline to go down than the typical Marvel big, end of the world, explosions everywhere kind of deal. Looking at you, Loki. But yeah, if I was in charge of the project, that's the story that I would tell to bring this fuzzy elf back to our screens. On a side note, it would also be good if Colossus got more recognition in the films, because at the moment he's sort of a side character, but he's really quite an awesome guy. There was once a film made called Stormbreaker, which was meant to be the first in a series based on the Alex Rider books. Unfortunately, it wasn't very good, and point blanc, never got made. I definitely think some kind of Alex Rider reboot needs to get made, whether it be in film, maybe an HBO style show where each book is one season. All I know is there is a lot of awesome film-worthy stuff that happens in these books. Some of the things that I would like to see most from this series are the gaming sequence from Eagle Strike, which I think would be very visually interesting. The ending of Eagle Strike, where Yasin tells Alex about his parents. The blood money scene from Eagle Strike. Actually, no, pretty much all of Eagle Strike. I'd also like to see the emotional journey that Alex goes through in Scorpia. In addition, I think Scorpia's opening attack in Scorpia Rising would make one of the most memorable scenes in the series. Russian Roulette could also be adapted into a prequel film or television show based on Yasin and how he became an assassin, because who doesn't love criminals whose name rhymes with their profession? Either way, I think these books need to be adapted just so that more people can be aware and reminded of their sheer brilliance. Infinity Wars is the big storyline that Marvel have been leading up to throughout their entire MCU franchise. Now here's the question. Where do you go from there? What's next? What could be as big as that storyline? Well, call me crazy, but I think Avengers Vs X-Men is a pretty big storyline that could work. Now, I know what you're saying. Tom, you're an idiot. Fox owns X-Men, Disney owns Marvel. But if the rumours about Sony loaning Spider-Man to Disney Marvel are true, then it does open up the sort of flexibility gates about some kind of Fox-Disney collaboration. Admittedly, unlikely. And of course the rights aren't the only issue with the film. There'd be the fact that there's 2 Quicksilvers, the fact that Disney Marvel's long-term plan stretches out so far that this film would have to be postponed to even later than 2030, and of course the big question that's never addressed throughout all of Marvel, including comics: why are superpowered mutants shunned by society when non-mutant superheroes are celebrated? My idea to get around this one is that there is a specific reason, and whatever that reason may be, is the trigger for the war that ensues between the Avengers and the X-Men. This is not what happens in the comic storyline, but as we've seen time and time again, these films are fine with straying away from the source material. So there you have it, Avengers vs X-Men rounds off my list of sequels I'd like to see. Oh, you didn't think I was finished there, did you? Speaking of sequels I'd like to see, I have some big news to tell you. Let's take a moment to talk about a sequel that I wanted to see since as long as I can remember. Jurassic World had its first official trailer this week, and if any of you who are subscribed to me also follow me on Twitter, you may know that I got a little bit excited about this. You will also have a good idea what I think about Chicken on the Bone, but that's completely unrelated. The trailer shows Jurassic World as a fully open to the public operating theme park with real-life dinosaurs that people are totally fine with. Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy rocks up, and some of the scientists explain to him that they are creating a new mutant dinosaur. Maybe X-Men vs InGen would make a good movie. Anyway, Star-Lord, whose character's name is actually Owen, is like, bad idea bro, but the scientists are like, nah, it'll be fine. Next thing you know, terror everywhere. One thing I would have liked to have seen is an older Lex and Tim involved in the movie. I like the idea of them being some kind of Masrani InGen resistance force, because I'm pretty sure after what happened to them in the first film, they wouldn't be on board with this. The moment from the trailer that had the most wow factor was the moment with the great white shark and the aquatic dinosaur completely stealing the thunder from Jaws. Just watching that aquatic dinosaur take the shark in one bite, I was thinking, you're gonna need a bigger cinema. Finally, a new teaser trailer for Game of Thrones Season 5 has arrived, in which we get to see about 4 seconds of Season 5. But if you're waking up in a dark room, some creepy voiceover about darkness, and some guy getting given a coin wasn't enough to excite you, let me talk to you about this. Book readers will recognise this as the House in Black and White from A Feast for Crows. In the books, the House of Black and White is one of the places where the Guild of Assassins known as the Faceless Men operate. Arya goes here and begins training as a Faceless Man, primarily because Jack and Hagar was a Faceless Man also. and he told her that he could find her in Bravos. She basically just wants to find Jack and Hagar and go around killing all the people off her list. And when you think about it, why wouldn't you? Because Jack and Hagar is awesome. Bala Morgulis.